good morning. Today, we are going to talk about charts in Excel. Before we learn what are charts in Excel, let's see why do we use charts at the first place. Well, you might have heard the old saying which says an image is worth more than 1,000 words. That is the reason we use charts because it is a visual representation which makes it easier to understand the meaning behind the numbers. You might have seen very large amount of data, but as soon as you convert that large amount of data into a chart, it would start making sense to you or whoever is looking at the chart. It is used to make informed decisions faster because the person who is taking decision does not need to go through the whole details and nitty-gritties of the data which they are working at, and they can simply look at the chart and identify that what decision needs to be made. It transforms complex numerical data into easily understandable graphs, and it is used to identify patterns, trends, and comparisons. When we look into the demonstration of charts, you will understand that what it means. Now, there are different type of charts in Excel, and many of them are used to do different type of analysis and to show different type of data. But what are the most common chart types? First one is column chart, which is the vertical columns, or the bar chart, which are horizontal rows. Now, what is the benefit of these charts? These are used to compare data across multiple categories. And this is how a column chart looks. You see that there are categories of north, east, west, south, and central. And by looking at this chart, you can easily compare that which region has the maximum sales revenue. This is the same data plotted on a bar chart, where the data is placed horizontally, and you can compare the same regions and the sales revenue of these regions in a horizontal comparison. Now, in which case do we use what? Well, you can decide it based on the aesthetics of the slide or the presentation which you are making, that which type of chart looks better at that particular place. Next chart type is line chart. Line chart is used to look at trends in data over time. What it means is that let's suppose you have a data of 12 months. So 12 month is a time series, and by looking at this data, you can easily identify that how the sales revenue is moving. So this is comparing the trend in data over time. The next one is a pie chart. All of you might have seen a pizza, a slice that we take out of pizza. It represents a portion of the whole pizza. Similarly, this chart is used to identify relative proportion of different parts of a whole. Now, considering whole market capitalization as 100%, this chart represents five different companies which have their share in the market capitalization. So, this is a relative proportion of different parts of a whole market cap. And the next one is a scatter plot. What this does is it identifies relationships between two sets of data. Here is an example of a scatter plot where you see one variable on x-axis, which is a numeric variable, and the other variable is there on the y-axis, which is also a numeric variable. And this scatter plot shows that how both of these variables are related to each other. Let's check how these works in Excel. I am in my Excel right now, and I have created some dummy data to demonstrate the charts. This data is for column charts, or it could also be used for bar charts. Here are the regions, and here is sum of sales revenue. What I can simply do is that I select this data range, I go to insert, and there you see a section for charts. Here it shows recommended charts, and then there are some icon of the different type of charts which you can understand by hovering over these icons. So if I hover over this says insert column or bar chart, this says insert line chart, this says insert pie chart, and so on. So for this purpose, I will insert a column chart. So when I click on this down arrow, I'll see different options: 2D chart, 3D chart, 2D bar chart, or 3D bar chart. So let me create a 2D chart now. It is as simple as that. The chart has got created. Now, what you would observe is that the regions are coming north, east, west, south, central, and grand total. Well, you know, grand total is not a region. Hence, what you could do is, you see that in the data which is there, this has highlighted in red, blue, and purple the range which is used to make this chart. You can simply come to the bottom right corner of this, and in this small square, you can drag and change the range of the chart data to make it north, east, west, central. Now there are some components of chart which I want to show you here. These are axis. This is also axis. This is the title of the chart. You can select the title of the chart, and by double clicking it, you can change the title. I don't want to show sum of, I just want to show sales revenue. When I click on this chart, you would see 3 buttons which has popped up, plus this brush icon and this filter icon. Well, if you click on plus, you can add more elements to the chart. For example, you can add axis title, and by this you can define what is there on x-axis and y-axis. So for example, here I double clicked and I mentioned revenue in INR, and in x-axis I can mention region, right? Similarly, there are other things which I can add. For example, data labels. When I add data labels, you would notice that it has added value of each region on the top of the column. Now you might notice that when I am scrolling through this list, there is a arrow which is appearing against each of these options. I can click on this arrow and find more options about it. So for example, I can put these values inside end, inside base. Currently outside end is selected, or I can also do a data callout like this. Well, let me select inside end because I want to show these numbers inside the end. But you notice that this number is not easily readable. So what I would do is I would select any of these numbers just by clicking on that number, and you see that all of these numbers have got selected. And here I can format these numbers. For example, I can do a shape fill white so that it appears correctly at the white background. I can also apply a shape outline. Let me apply a red outline so that it contrasts and show that okay, these are the numbers. And now you notice that since these numbers are appearing here, I don't need this numbers here, so I can simply select this and click delete. By this I have made my chart more clean. Also, since numbers are not there, I can remove these grid lines by just selecting this and hitting delete, and this has become even more clean. Now you would notice one thing, that when I am selecting any of these, there are format data labels option which has appeared here, and it shows multiple options to format data label as well as text options. So this gives a lot of options to format that how the data should look on the chart. Similarly, you can apply shadow effects, reflection, glow. These are all the format shape options. And if you want to come out of the format shape, you can simply click on close button here, and this is how you have formatted. Similarly, if you click anywhere else in the chart, you would notice that chart design and format tab has got activated. So if you go to chart design, you can format the elements of the chart design from here as well. For example, here I can use any style which I want to keep for this particular chart. See, there are some presets which are getting applied on this chart which I had designed. Similarly, you can format elements of this chart from this ribbon. There are like multiple options and many options to formats, so I won't go through each and every one of them, otherwise this video will become too long. I'll quickly show you that how some of the other charts are also made. So here I have prepared the data for line chart. Now in column chart, what I had done is I had selected this data and then created the chart. In line chart, I'll show you another method of creating the chart. What you can do is you can click on line chart, you can click on any cell, click on insert, and here you can select line chart. And I have selected 2D line here, or let me select 2D line with markers. But last time when we inserted, we observed that the data has already appeared. Why did it not appear this time? Well, because I did not select this data. But I can add data to this chart from this chart design tab and going to select data button. When I click on select data button, it is asking me for the data range. Here I can give this data range. And like this, it has automatically taken the data and put it in the chart. So I just need to click OK. And like we saw in the previous chart, the grand total was coming. I can simply drag this range and remove the grand total from here. And I can do all the formatting which I did in the previous chart in this one as well. So I can just remove it. I can remove the grid lines as well. But you know what, in time series, maybe I want to show grid lines, but not horizontal, but vertical grid lines. So what I can do is I can select primary vertical grid lines so that the viewer will be able to understand that which point is for which month. I can also expand the chart. I can also, change the size of elements of this chart, and I can add data labels or legends. So legends basically define that what each of this line is. If there were multiple lines, let's suppose if there was a line for quantity sold, and I randomly enter some quantity here, and since I have added new column, I can just drag this range of this chart, and you would notice that a quantity sold line has come. But this is appearing a very strange because these are different quantities and it is still showing one line. The reason for that is because currently the chart axis is defined only by this value of sales revenue. What it means is that since sales revenue is so high number, and this is only in thousands, and sales revenue is in multi lakhs and even crores. So obviously 1000 would appear very, very small in comparison to crores, right? So in this case, what you can do is you can add this particular data range to a secondary axis. Select this line, right click, and go to format data series. And here you would notice that series options has come, and you can simply select the secondary axis. What this means is that first column is considered in primary axis and the second column is selected, moves to the secondary axis, which means that both different scale of axes can be compared in the same chart. But you might be thinking that what changed after moving this to secondary axis? Well, nothing changed on this chart because there is nothing to identify that what is the scale of the secondary axis. For this, what we need to do is we need to come to this chart element and add not the axis title, but in axis only, we need to add secondary vertical is selected. We need to add primary vertical. So by this way, you see that on the left side, revenue is showing, and on the right side axis, sales is showing. And what you can also do is that you can change the scale of this one. For example, here the minimum is 0. Change the minimum from 0 to 3000. Now, once I do that, you would observe that these changes have become more prominent. Now, let's suppose I also want that this quantity sold should not be overlapping with the revenue line. Well, I can change the maximum axis as well. so that it comes below it. So let's suppose maximum access is 10,000. 10,000. And by this, I can show on the same chart that how the quantity sold is moving and how the revenue is moving. I think you have understood that how the charts are made. I would like you to make your own data and create charts using that and share with me if you are getting any problems or any specific queries regarding charts so that we can go through them case by case. Well, the thing with these is that the more you explore and the more you practice, the more you will understand that what all can be done. I hope you like this video and thank you for watching.